stereotype that Jews run the media, and they use the media to suppress criticism of Israel, to suppress criticism of Jews, to enforce Jewish atrocity propaganda, to reinforce values that are good for Jews as a group. Everybody knows that, and that's a stereotype because it's true, and it always has been. They have always been powerful in Hollywood. They have always been powerful in media, at least in living memory, in recent memory. And what is their solution to this problem? That Americans increasingly don't like or care about Israel, and for good reason. It is to increase their market share. It is to expand their control over American media, the creation of it, the distribution of it, to suppress these opinions and speech that they don't like with censorship, by flooding the zone with propaganda. They're hiring lobbyists and public relations firms, and you name it. They're flooding the zone with propaganda, suppressing the things they don't like to try to regain control over the narrative and of people's minds. And one of the figures that is leading the charge on this is Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison is one of the richest men in the world, net worth that is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. He owns the Silicon Valley big tech company Oracle, which does data hosting for all of the biggest companies, and they're one of the biggest providers of that service. Larry Ellison is a Jew. He's a secular Jew. He is a Jew that does not believe in religious Judaism. He's only Jewish ethnically. He was given up as a foster child. I believe he was raised by relatives, actually. He was adopted by a Jewish family in the south side of Chicago, and did not have any Jewish religious beliefs, and did not meet his birth mother until he was in his middle age. And yet his Jewish identity is incredibly powerful for him regardless. He's extremely pro-Israel. He's given tens of millions of dollars to the IDF, and he's a personal friend of Benjamin Netanyahu. As far as we know, this is the extent of their relationship. Larry Ellison offered Benjamin Netanyahu a position on the board of his company. Larry Ellison invited the Netanyahu family to vacation on his private island in Hawaii, where he personally hosted them. Larry Ellison tried to help Netanyahu out of a couple of legal and political problems. Netanyahu asked Ellison if he could buy a rival media publication in Israel that was criticizing Netanyahu. Netanyahu asked Ellison to intervene on his behalf to secure high-quality legal representation. Larry Ellison called up the Hollywood producer Arnon Milchan and asked him to fire his attorney, who's an Israeli Jew, so that Netanyahu could hire him. So these guys are like this. Larry Ellison is being questioned in Israel in connection with Netanyahu's many corruption cases because they have such a close working relationship. So Ellison is a Jew. He's a secular Jew, but he's deeply in love with Israel and has a very close personal relationship and professional relationship with Israel's prime minister. And he is one of the most powerful men in the world. He's not only one of the richest men in the world, but he owns one of the most important companies in the world. Understand, not all companies are created equal. He doesn't just have a massive personal fortune, it's in tech. And in particular, he is involved in the data. Everybody's data. Oracle is one of the biggest companies that hosts data. So this has national security implications, implications about privacy and surveillance, implications about national defense. And he's a loyalist to Israel's prime minister. Now, in connection with Israel's problem that everyone's falling out of love with them, and their counter to this, which is to increase their market share over the media, Larry Ellison is flexing his political might with his money, as well as using his money too, to get the government to facilitate his acquisition of social media and conventional media companies. So, for example, the government banned TikTok. They said, TikTok has all these national security problems and too much anti-Semitism, So China has to sell it to America. That's an act of government. The government intervened. Congress passed a law, and the president signed it, banning TikTok unless they sold it. Under the Trump administration, Trump facilitated the sale of TikTok with China directly as part of a broader trade deal. And the trade deal is a comprehensive deal. It has to do with Taiwan. It has to do with soybeans. It has to do with Silicon Valley companies. It has to do with wafers and chips and all these different things. And as part of this bilateral comprehensive trade agreement and pursuant to an act of Congress, Trump is directly intervening to force China to sell their U.S. TikTok business to an American consortium. And Trump is giving that business to Larry Ellison. A newly created entity is taking a 45% stake in TikTok's U.S. business, and Larry Ellison is taking a major role in that. He's going to own a significant stake in that company, and he's going to take a major role in securing TikTok. So consider, Israel's got this problem. Netanyahu is a close friend of Ellison. Ellison is a problem solver for Netanyahu. Ellison is one of these American Jewish oligarchs that works for Netanyahu, like many others. Netanyahu has a problem in Israel. He picks up the phone and he calls the loyal American Jewish billionaire Larry Ellison. And by the way, why is this dynamic so important? America's the biggest and most powerful country in the world. You can't amass a $300 billion fortune in Israel because Israel's economy is negligible, because their population is negligible. Israel doesn't have institutions like we have. They don't have companies, universities. They don't have a market like we have. They don't have capital like we have. So an American Jew is empowered in America, becoming one of the most powerful individuals on the planet, which you could not do in Israel, and then serves at the pleasure of Israel's government. You see? And he has power not just in the world, but also in America. His citizenship is extremely valuable. His ability to build an American company is what made him so rich. And he uses his citizenship, his ability to interface in the political process in America, his ability to tap into the American market and capital markets and other things to create this fortune to then serve Israel. Israel has this problem. Netanyahu picks up the phone. Ellison answers. Ellison uses his connections through the Republican Party in American government to gain control over TikTok. And that's how Israel acquires a Chinese social platform that is all powerful in America. And what else do they do? Larry Ellison underwrites his son, David Ellison, his acquisition of Paramount Pictures, as well as potentially Warner Brothers. And now they will own all the media together. They will own TikTok. They will own CBS, TBS, HBO, HBO Max, Showtime, Nickelodeon, UFC streaming. They're going to own all this stuff. And they're going to use their ownership of all of it to help Israel. They already are. David Ellison is going to buy out Bari Weiss and her publication, The Free Press, going to give her a $100 million payday, and just made her an executive at CBS. She is an Israeli spy. She was trained up by Yoram Hazony. She did internships in Israel with the Israeli military and Israeli government officials. She was mentored by Jews like Bret Stephens in America, Yoram Hazony in Israel. She is an Israeli spy. And she's going to run CBS. And she got a $100 million payday. They're using their fortune as secular Jews. Bari Weiss is a lesbian. She's got a wife. Larry Ellison's an atheist. They're using their fortune to help Israel for no reason other than they're Jews. Israel's a Jewish state. They're Jews. This is what they're doing. Well, we got another. So that's just a brief summary of what we've been talking about for the past couple weeks. Now there's another piece of the story. We have these leaked emails. Now that you know who Larry Ellison is, and these leaked emails show, we already knew that Larry Ellison was a major backer of Marco Rubio. and his presidential campaign in 2015, when, as a senator from Florida, he was running for the Republican nomination for president. You might remember this. And Larry Ellison gave him lots of money and backed him and said he believed he was pro-American and so on. Well, knowing now what we know about Ellison, it raises an interesting question. Why did Larry Ellison back Netanyahu? Or excuse me, why did Larry Ellison back Marco Rubio? Did he back Marco Rubio because he believes in Rubio's conservative ideology, because he believed in Rubio as a guy, or did it have something to do with Israel? And now we know for a fact that it did. According to leaked emails, Larry Ellison tapped Israel's ambassador to Germany to vet Marco Rubio. Okay? Go figure. So Larry Ellison calls up the current Israeli ambassador to Germany, works for the government of Israel, and says, hey, I need you to check out this sophomore senator. I think at that time he was a freshman senator from Florida, Marco Rubio. He's running for president. I want to see if he's worth supporting. The guy says, no problem. So they get together, they meet, and the guy calls up Larry Ellison and says, he's solid. You know what the first thing Larry Ellison asked about Rubio was after this vetting appointment by Israel's ambassador? He said, is he good on Israel? The guy said, yes, absolutely. And then the money poured in. This is the story. It says, quote, as the nation's top diplomat, Secretary of State Marco Rubio has also played a role in the TikTok talks that steered the company toward Larry Ellison after playing a lead role as a senator in demonizing the app. That Rubio finds himself in a central position thanks to Ellison, who was a major patron of the Cuban-American former senator from Florida. Ellison first vetted Rubio for his fealty toward Israel back in early 2015, according to previously unreported email correspondence reviewed by DropSite. In early 2015, Ellison was emailing Ron Prosor, who was at that time serving in the tail end of his time as Israeli ambassador to the United Nations. He currently serves as the Israeli ambassador to Germany. The emails show the Israeli diplomat and Ellison arranged to meet with one another, with Prosor soliciting Ellison's views on Rubio as a potential candidate who would advocate on behalf of Israel. On April 26, 2015, Prosor sent Ellison an email titled Rubio Speech, asking the Oracle founder and CTO to send him a copy of a speech from the then candidate. The next day, the two traded messages indicating that Prosor and Ellison had had dinner together, and Ellison would soon meet Rubio directly. He said, I had a great time, Ron. I'm looking forward to the next time. He added, I'll let you know how dinner goes with Senator Rubio. On April 30th, Prosor sent another message to Ellison to follow up, sharing his phone number, thanking him for the evening they spent together. He said, how was the conversation with Rubio? Did he pass your scrutiny? Did you have a chance to talk about Israel? Would love to chat. Ellison responded in the affirmative. Hi, Ron. Great meeting with Rubio. I set him up to meet with Tony Blair, adding, Rubio will be a great friend for Israel. A month later, Ellison hosted a fundraiser for Rubio at his mansion in California. That would be only the beginning of a broader range of support that the tech billionaire would offer in bolstering Rubio's campaign. Over the course of that primary, Ellison plowed $5 million into the Conservative Solutions Super PAC, which supported Rubio, who, as Ellison privately hoped, advocated vocally for Israel throughout the course of his presidential bid and beyond. Okay? That's how our system works. Now, people say that we're fixated on Israel, obsessed with Israel, preoccupied with Israel. I would argue that it's the most powerful people in America that are preoccupied. I'm a live streamer. Larry Ellison runs Oracle and is the second richest man in the world. He now owns TikTok. His son owns all the media. 10 years ago, Larry Ellison was grooming the current Secretary of State of the United States of America to see if he was sufficiently supportive of Israel. How did he go about grooming Rubio? He used Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. And once he verified that Rubio would be good for Israel, and once he set him up with Tony Blair, who we'll talk about in a minute, he then gave Rubio $5 million. And he and the Israel lobby have backed Rubio ever since. Now, Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State. But he's not just the Secretary of State. He is also the acting National Security Advisor after the previous National Security Advisor, Michael Waltz, was dismissed because he was too close to Netanyahu. Okay? So the National Security Advisor is the head of the National Security Council. They integrate the information from the Department of War, from the Department of State, from the National Intelligence Directorate, and they brief the president on national security and give him options for how the military should move. Rubio now runs that council as well as the State Department. And he was groomed 10 years ago by Larry Ellison and the Israeli ambassador to see if he's pro-Israel enough. Now, in his position as Secretary of State, what do you think Rubio is up to? Rubio is working with pro-Israel groups like Beitar and Canary Mission that flag Israel-critical protesters for deportation. Rubio is working with those groups that create lists, and Rubio is personally revoking those people's visas and deporting them to other countries. Rubio is advocating for intervention against Iran. Rubio is running the negotiation with Israel and Hamas. Rubio probably had a hand as Secretary of State in negotiating the sale of TikTok. He is in the pocket of Larry Ellison and other pro-Israel donors who are allied with Bibi Netanyahu directly. And what Netanyahu wants, he gets. Netanyahu wants America to bomb Iran. Netanyahu wants America to expel all the critics of Israel and suppress criticism of Israel in America. And he wants pro-Israel forces to control our social platforms and our media ecosystem. Well, check, check, check. Ellison and Rubio have secured all of those objectives. What you might have missed is that in those emails, Larry Ellison said, I'm going to introduce Rubio to the former British Prime Minister, Tony Blair. Where has that name come up recently in the news? If you've never heard of Tony Blair. When President Trump and Netanyahu presented their 20-point plan for peace in Gaza on Monday, they said that Gaza would be governed by a technocratic council where Donald Trump would be the chair, and the only other individual named who would be on that council was Tony Blair. Donald Trump and Tony Blair are going to run Gaza. According to the peace plan created by Trump, his son-in-law Jared Kushner, and Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State. This is the same guy that Larry Ellison introduced Rubio to 10 years ago. But it gets better. Larry Ellison gave the Tony Blair Foundation $350 million. And people that previously worked for the foundation said that Oracle and Tony Blair's nonprofit were inextricable. They were basically the same organization. The article goes on. It says Ellison has given or pledged more than $350 million to Blair's world-changing project, making him the largest donor and helping it to expand around the globe, according to a new investigation by the New Statesman and Lighthouse Reports. The Tony Blair Institute for Global Change has effectively become an offshoot of Oracle, with key Blair advisors sitting on both the board of Oracle and the foundation, TBI. Oracle and TBI's connections are not just rhetorical. By 2023, joint retreats had become commonplace. At the Institute's headquarters at 1 Bartholomew Place in London, the teams would convene in the basement with executives from Oracle. Senior TBI employees have been hosted at Oracle's headquarters in Austin, Texas, coordinated by a TBI employee whose role is to scale and manage the partnership with Oracle. Former staff recall there were other earlier hush-hush joint retreats at Ellison properties in the United States. A former TBI staffer said, quote, "It's hard to get across just how deeply connected the two organizations are. The meetings were like they're part of the same organization. As the TBI's partnership with Oracle deepened, employees told us they started to see Oracle staff started to slide into TBI employees' calendars and schedule meetings in order to find out what the Institute was doing in different countries and scope out opportunities. In other words, if the relationship persists, Ellison and Oracle are positioned to take a lead role in redeveloping Gaza. We don't have a guess at what type of society Ellison would hope to usher in. On an investor call last year, Ellison said that mass surveillance is an inevitability and will keep the citizenry on their best behavior. Okay? So let's recap. The United States is starting to turn their back on Israel. Charlie Kirk begs Netanyahu to assault America with foreign propaganda, said you're losing the information battle. So the pro-Israel allies in Congress, at the behest of the North American Jewish Federation and the ADL, the Zionist-controlled GOP bans TikTok. Donald Trump gets $100 million, many more millions of dollars from pro-Israel donors. He gets elected, and he facilitates the sale of TikTok from China to the pro-Israel Jew and friend of Netanyahu, Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison's son merges his company Skydance with Paramount and Warner Brothers. This company has the exclusive streaming rights to UFC, which is secured by UFC's new owner, Ari Emanuel, brother of Rahm Emanuel, son of an IDF veteran who got Kanye canceled as well, who used to run one of the major talent agencies in Hollywood. That new company gave Bari Weiss $100 million and made her now a senior editor, the editor-in-chief, as a matter of fact, of CBS. For those that don't know, by the way, Bari Weiss received training from Yoram Hazony, who runs National Conservatism, that has hosted Marco Rubio, J.D. Vance, and Peter Thiel to speak there. Yoram Hazony recently interviewed by Ezra Klein. They consider him to be the thought leader of the populist nationalism that inspired J.D. Vance. Bari Weiss came back to America, was mentored by the Jewish editor of the Jerusalem Post, Bret Stephens, who was writing for Wall Street Journal, owned by Rupert Murdoch, friend of Netanyahu. They then took her to the New York Times, where Bret Stephens was an opinion editor. Then Bari Weiss created the Free Press with funding from Andreessen Horowitz, another major backer of Trump. Horowitz is the son of a legendary pro-Israel conservative donor. She also had backing from Peter Thiel. She's hosted both of them on her podcast. Peter Thiel got money from Irving Kristol, as did Yoram Hazony, to start up their respective student newspapers. Bari Weiss is now running CBS. Larry Ellison gave $5 million to Rubio after using Israel's ambassador to make sure he supported Israel. Ellison introduced Rubio to Tony Blair. Marco Rubio facilitated the sale of TikTok to Ellison. Rubio's now brokering a deal for Tony Blair to control Gaza. And Tony Blair's foundation, his Institute for Global Change, is inseparable from Larry Ellison's company, Oracle. Okay, so are you following all of that? That is our American system. You got all that? Now, if you suspect for even a moment that Israel controls America, or Jews control America, or Jews control the media, if you believe that the Jews have this level of power and influence for any reason other than meritocracy, because of their love of books and learning, because of their intelligence, well, you're an anti-Semite. You're a real anti-Semite. And if that's the case, the ADL is going to use their connections to get you banned from everything. You got all that? That's our oligarchy, the nature of which dare not speak its name. In what sense of the word can this meaningfully be described as a democracy? In what meaningful sense of the word can this be described as a fair system, as an American system? This is an oligarchy. It's not about voting. It's not even about government. It is about the complex, interdependent network of academia, media, finance, Silicon Valley, and government where the Jewish nation, their intelligence operatives, their loyalists, their spies, their billionaires have infiltrated and operate across all domains, across all borders, and they work together for the benefit of their collective interest. They work together for the collective interest of that Jewish nation, which includes Israel, but also includes the Jewish diaspora community in Europe, the United States, and elsewhere. That's the real system. And it transcends the party lines, it transcends the borders, it transcends the public-private sector divide. It reaches across all domains. And this is where you start to connect the dots. All these Jewish people that are vastly overrepresented in each of these institutions, the 5 out of 8 Ivy League presidents who are Jewish, the biggest donors, individual donors in the last cycle for both major parties that are Jewish, Miriam Adelson, Michael Bloomberg, just to name a couple, of which there are many. The Jews in the hedge fund industry, guys like Bill Ackman. In BlackRock, Larry Fink. In Silicon Valley, it's Sequoia, it's Andreessen Horowitz, it's Peter Thiel, it's Alex Karp. This is who is running our system. And it's just factual. We just laid that. Those are all those connections. And at the minimum, you would say this should not be allowed in our society, that this is cheating the system. We have an open society. Immigrants come here. They become citizens. All different religions, nationalities, ethnicities come here, and they're considered American. They all have the same rights. We pride ourselves on being tolerant, on looking past those racial, ethnic, and religious differences. But this is with the understanding, the basis of that social contract is that we are supposed to see each other as all part of the same America. That we're all supposed to see each other as American based on our creedal identity. And we're supposed to treat each other as citizens of America as equals. But there is one group that is not playing by those rules. There's one group that does not really see themselves as American and doesn't see everybody else as the same as themselves. They see themselves as Jews first and foremost, and they take advantage of our system. They take advantage of our citizenship. They take advantage of our openness, of our tolerance. They take advantage of the lack of quotas, legal restrictions, social stigma, discrimination, and prejudice. They take advantage of all of those things to pose as Americans the same as us, when privately they maintain another loyalty that has nothing to do with religion, that has nothing to do with even an affiliation with a foreign state, but has to do with their ethnicity because they're Jewish. They take advantage of our vast wealth, our vast population, territory, resources, our legal structure, our national defense, our capital markets. They take advantage of all of this. They cut through our system like a hot knife through butter. Without the restrictions, they rise through the ranks, helping each other reciprocally all the way. And then they exploit their position at the top of the preeminent society in the world to help and enrich each other, themselves, and their base of operations, Israel. And that's not right. That's wrong. That is wrong. That is unfair. That is an abuse of our system. It is an abuse of our trust. It is an abuse of our goodwill. It is a violation of every American value, conservative or liberal. Even the loosest interpretation of American values, this is a denigration of those values. And it needs to stop. Like, there's just no other. It just has to stop. You people need to play by the same rules as everybody else, or you need to get out. You need to respect our citizenship and not maintain a dual citizenship with Israel or a dual allegiance to Israel. You need to respect, if we're going to all get along and have a creedal identity, you need to respect that every other American is just as good as you and just as American as you, and you need to start seeing yourself as American. If you want to take advantage of American government, American public services, American schools, American healthcare, American markets, American consumers and investors, you need to start seeing yourself as American. You need to start affording Americans the same respect, the same tolerance that they have afforded you. Otherwise, you need to get the fuck out of our country. It's un-American. This Jewish dual loyalty, this Jewish thing, it's un-American. By every metric, it's un-Christian, it's unfair, it's not right, it's un-American. And a serious country would rise up and say, you need to get out. And they say, without us, who would host your data? We'll find somebody. We'll find somebody. We'll find anybody. We'll find someone that is just loyal to America. And what happens one day when the police show up and they take you and they put you on a plane back over there and they confiscate your devices, your computers? Not so powerful now, huh? Let's see how good you do. All your education, all your smarts, all your chutzpah. Let's see how good you do over there by yourselves without taking advantage of us. I don't think it'll be the same, but I wish you well. I wish you the best. But this is not right. This is a foreign element. This is a foreign, hostile, alien element that has infiltrated our society, living among us. And it's not all of them. Surely there are some Jewish Americans who are patriotic and they see the problem too. If they exist, I think they're rare, but I'm sure they must be out there. But at the minimum, at the highest levels, this has to be stopped. And the American people, white, black, red, brown, whatever you are, needs to rise up and recognize we're all being taken advantage of here. Because you know who doesn't have power? Any of us. Who has power like this? Can black people help themselves like this? Not even. White people can't help themselves like this. Black people can't help them. No one can help themselves like they help themselves. Using us. It's got to stop. And this is just... It's just about what's fair. They say, you hate us, you're jealous. You're just jealous and you hate us and you're trying to hurt us. We don't want to hurt anybody. We are good and decent people. They take advantage of that. Americans are honest, kind, decent, open-minded, yes, tolerant people. The last thing most white people want to be considered is racist, almost to a fault, to a detriment. Americans are good, decent, honest people, and they have taken advantage of that. They have weaponized that against us by acting in bad faith. They lie. They say, oy vey, so you hate us. And we say, no, no. And they don't mean that. They say that. They say that to disarm us so that we tolerate the abuse. They weaponize our goodwill, our honesty, our good faith, our sense of propriety and guilt and shame and fairness. They use the good things about us to hurt us, to take from us, to abuse our system for their benefit. We have to stop being stupid. We have to stop being... Do you think Israel would put up with that? Do you think that if there were white Christians in Israel using Israel's institutions to help Christians and whites, do you think they would stand for that? There'd be a lynch mob. Christian missionaries go and they stand on the street corner and they get spit on and hit. You think that Israel would tolerate Christian whites at the head of their society, running their institutions, their most critical infrastructure, and they don't know if they could trust them or not? They would have those people lynched. There'd be lynch mobs outside. They would deport those people. They'd kill those people because They're serious because they're intense. They're serious about their survival, about their security. They're selfish in a way that we are not. They're cynical and cunning in a way that we are not. We tolerate it like we're idiots. We call it anti-Semitism if you have a problem with it. This is about what's fair. This is about what's proper. This is about what is owed, what is right, what we allegedly all agreed upon. These Jewish communists come here and they say, America's for everybody. America's for everybody. If you're not okay with that, you're a racist. You need to get comfortable opening up your borders and all this kind of stuff. And then they get together amongst themselves as a race and they say, oh, all right, huddle everybody. What's good for us? How can we use our power to benefit ourselves? Okay, so I guess that's not good enough for us, but it's good enough for you. It isn't right. And no one who is patriotic can be okay with this. No one who is Christian can be okay with this. No one who is not a sucker can be okay with this. The way they browbeat us, the way they pay and lie. They pay people to lie to our faces. Lobbyists get paid millions of dollars to lie to our faces like we're fucking assholes. Brad Parscale, fuck you. Fuck you. Seriously. Fuck you. You should go to Israel. This cocksucker gets paid $6 million to go on Twitter and say, Qatar gets all this money. Why doesn't anyone talk about that? You're a fucking liar. You are paid to lie. You sold us out. You sold your soul. You sold out your country. Now you go on Twitter and get paid to lie? Fuck you. Fuck all of you. Xavier DeRusso, Emily Saves America, CJ Pearson, all these shills that have taken money. How dare you? It's like nothing means anything. No one cares about telling the truth, even though that's like the central commandment of the Bible. No one cares about our country, which people actually died to defend our sovereignty, independence, freedom, prosperity. They just lie. And the lies got to stop. No more cap. In Jesus' name, no more cap, please. No more fucking lies. No more gaslighting. And what's worse is the smugness, the flippant, glib, arrogant, contemptuous smugness of fucking all these people. Bari Weiss, go home. Go back. Yora Mazzoni gets on a show. These Nick Fuentes types, get the fuck out of here. Josh Hammer and Mark Levin, these little troll demons, these little gremlins, they get together. You know, this really filthy stuff like Nick Fuentes. Get the fuck out of here. Our patience has its limits. Didn't start this way. Nobody started. I didn't start this way. Nobody started this way. But they have pushed too much. You're too greedy. You pushed way too far. You took it too far again. You had a good thing going, actually. Wouldn't you say? Jews have a pretty good thing going in America. But there's no give. At what point do they just recognize the jig is up here? Maybe it's time to give a little. Maybe it's time to loosen the reins a bit. But they can't. They can't. They hate us too much. Too much arrogance, too much contempt, too much hubris. It's just not in their DNA. It's just not in their vocabulary. You would think, look at the way this country is turning on Israel. And over what? Murdering kids? We're not turning on them because we're being bombarded every day with videos of them smirking, shooting people in the back of the head, and then lying about it. The whole country's turning on them. This has happened in the matter of a couple of years. The whole thing's being overturned. And you'd think at this point, there'd be a little bit of introspection or charity or honesty and say, you know what? We fucked up. Maybe we should stop pushing. But what do? Double down. You get the worst, ugliest freaks like Laura Loomer, nutcase. Have you ever met a more insane person in your life? You get psychos like Laura Loomer, gremlins like Josh Hammer and Mark Levin. How odious they are. On television, they give them a full-time show on Fox News to berate us because we don't support Israel. That's your response? You see, once again, the anti-Semites coming with the pitchforks and torches, just like the Middle Ages. And this is your response? More militancy? More hostility? Oh, get a fucking clue. Get a clue. You think I'm bad? I'm your moderate option. I'm actually Catholic. I still believe in God. I still believe we should treat these people with dignity and respect, even as they're stabbing us in the back. Maybe as we deport them, maybe as we charge them for treason. I still believe they should be treated with dignity and respect, at least not, the ones that aren't lying to our faces this way. They need to stop. This is a plea. This is a plea from a Christian who doesn't want to see anybody, who doesn't want to see conflict, who doesn't want to see bloodshed, who doesn't want to see harm or cruelty. This is a plea. You need to stop. Because where this is going, if they win, we're enslaved. And, just wait and see the bag of tricks they open up for America if we ever decide to go against them. If it goes the other way, God help everybody. But it just has to stop. We can't take it anymore. You see where this is going. It doesn't go to a good place. It's going to a dark place. And look, we're being forced. We're being forced along. We're being pushed to a very dark place in America, and I don't like it. But it's because these people, they're just taking advantage. They're getting caught with their hand in the cookie jar, and they don't know when to quit. Everywhere you look, you see, it's like we cannot have our dignity as a people, our sovereignty, our independence. We cannot be humiliated ritualistically and insulted and deprived of what is due to us in our own country in this way forever. It just can't go on like that. These things that are being, Larry Ellison, Tony Blair, Rubio, Mike Waltz, Bari Weiss, Yorm Mazzoni. It's like you people got to pack it up, man. Let it go. Because if you don't let it go, it's not going to go well. So, and that's not a threat. That's me saying this is a pressure cooker situation. And on some level, maybe they underestimate the gravity of that. That's not a threat. That's not me trying to sound tough and threatening. That's me saying this is a pressure cooker, and this is the time to take a step back on their part. This is not the time to double down and put Laura Loomer and Mark Levin in front of everybody's faces, wagging their fingers at us, telling us that we're anti-Semites and that's backfiring. That's not working. So I see this stuff and I lose my mind. I absolutely lose my mind, and you're not allowed to talk about it still. They're trying to distract us with this government shutdown. Who cares about the government shutdown, honestly? What is even this government shutdown about? Can anybody tell me? It's about Obamacare or something. It's about inflation. Healthcare is going to become more expensive. How is that even possible? Everything's too expensive. What are you talking about? That's all theater. That doesn't matter. Look at the real things that are happening. They're setting up for another war in Iran. They're getting ready to genocide Gaza, and our imprimatur is all over that. They're going to give it to Larry Ellison. The Jews are taking over the media and the Ivy Leagues all over again. You have to take a Israel brainwashing class to get into Northwestern. They're imposing the same conditions on the other Ivy Leagues. Here's my plea. Maybe this will reach the right places. Where are the Gentiles with power? Thank you, Tucker. I don't agree with him on everything, but at least he's putting this out there. Where are the Gentiles with power? Elon Musk, Palmer Luckey, Trump, Vance, any of these guys, any of these Gentiles, Pete Hegseth. Where are the Gentiles with power? Where are the Christians, Gentiles with power? Where are you? Please fight for our country. We don't have the power. We're the little people down here. Help us or help our country. Do something here. Maybe we don't always understand how you're operating, but do something. There's nothing. People are always asking me, what can I do? What can we do? What do you think you even can do? Look at our system. It's not like in the old days where you can literally get up on a physical box and yell at everybody and make a pamphlet and people get the pitchforks. It doesn't work that way anymore. They control the internet. They control the TV. They control everything that you see. They control the government. So people with their meager income, their pittance of a savings, their other obligations, they've got a job, etc. They're out there and anywhere other than where it matters. San Francisco, D.C., Cambridge, New York. People are saying, what can I do? Can I give you $5? Can we put up a flyer? It's like, God bless these people, but we need the God-appointed leaders of our country to help turn this around. Or we have to become them. The leaders, that is. But, for God and country, we have to defeat this foreign entity. For our God, Jesus Christ, not just God the Father, but for our triune God, God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit of the gospel, of the cross, for our God, for our country, the real America, we have to defeat this foreign entity. What else matters? For our God, for our country, for our race, for Rome, for Europe, for everything that we love, everything that we hold dear, all of it, our whole story. That's what we have to fight for. Forget about, they say radical left, this and that. It's about our heritage from Greece, from Rome, the Franks, the British, the Spanish, the French, the Germans, the Dutch, the Portuguese, the Russians for that matter, for the church, for God, for America, for the United States of America. That's what it has to be for.